Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jordan Giesecke, and this is The Limiting Factor. Tesla's Q3 earnings call was packed with updates across the board for Megapack, Robotaxi, Optimus, AI progress, the AI5 chip, and full self-driving. The one thing that was of course left out, again, was any updates on the ramp of the fully dry 4680 cell. That's because the investment community is understandably focused on the progress of Tesla's robotaxi business, and didn't ask any questions about it. So what I'm going to do in this video is cover the key updates and insights from the Q3 earnings call across Tesla's product lines. Then, sometime after the annual meeting, which could include updates on batteries, I'll do a video providing a full update on everything we know about Tesla's cell supply, including speculation on Tesla's 4680 ramp. Before we begin, a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, YouTube members, and Twitter subscribers, as well as Rebellionaire.com. They specialize in helping investors manage concentrated positions. Rebellionaire can help with covered calls, risk management, and creating a money master plan from your financial first principles. Fresh on the heels of the Megapack and Megablock that were unveiled in September and will go into production next year, Elon stated in the Q3 earnings call that Tesla is working on Megapack 4. The goal for Megapack 4 is to incorporate substation equipment so that it can connect directly to the grid at 35 kilovolts. How does that differ from Megapack 3? Megapack 3 will output 480 volts directly, and then 4 Megapacks will be tied together using Megablock, which contains transformers and switching gear to output up to 35 kilovolts to connect to the grid. That is, Megablock contains the substation components that Megapack 3 needs to connect to the grid, whereas Megapack 4 will be able to connect directly to the grid without the need for Megablock. How will Tesla do that? Presumably by using solid-state transformers of the kind that Heron Power is developing, which would not only simplify installation, but also decrease costs and increase efficiency. So what does that mean for the future of Megapack 3 and Megablock? It could make those two products redundant relatively quickly. Or it could mean that Megapack 3 and Megapack 4 are going to be separate products meant to cater to different project scales. For example, if more of the substation hardware is included in Megapack 4, that product might be better for standalone use cases where only 1 Megapack's worth of power is required. Then, for large-scale projects where 4 or more Megapacks are needed, the Megapack 3 and Megablock might offer better scalability and/or modularity that makes for easier service and maintenance. Either way, I suspect it's going to be another year or two at least before we hear more about Megapack 4. The second point to cover about the energy storage business was that the CFO, Vaibhav, stated that the tariff impact for Q3 for both the automotive and energy storage businesses was in excess of $400 million, and generally split evenly, meaning $200 million for energy storage. The situation would be worse, but Tesla started producing Megapacks in Shanghai, which allows them to avoid tariff costs for non-US demand. How much did that $200 million impact the financials of their energy storage business? As you can see, thanks to this data from James Stevenson, Tesla still managed to achieve record revenues and gross margins. That is, so far, the analysis from my last quarterly earnings call video with Iola Hughes of Romotion appears to be correct. In that video, Iola stated that, at least for now, Tesla was largely passing on tariff costs to customers. That could change in the future, and increased competition may start to create a drag on gross margins. But then again, Tesla will soon start producing LFP battery cells in-house, and are diversifying their supply chain away from China, which will help buoy gross margins. However, even if margins do come down, Tesla will likely be able to make it up on volume. As Michael Snyder pointed out later in the earnings call, demand for Tesla's energy storage products continues to be strong into next year, and they're seeing remarkable growth in demand from AI and data center applications. Michael also dropped a piece of information that may become more consequential in the years to come, which is that Tesla started production of residential solar panels from their Buffalo factory. But that's a topic for another video. Next, Elon stated in the past he's been reticent on expanding vehicle production because they didn't have clarity on unsupervised self-driving. But now that they have clarity, it makes sense to expand production as fast as they reasonably can. This is an important statement by Elon, and probably the second most important of the earnings call. That's because although Elon often makes big claims and bold predictions, when it comes to risking Tesla's capital, he's usually shrewd. As they say, talk is cheap. But with the factory lines spooling up to build vehicles like the Cybercab, after a decade of waiting, we're now hitting the put up or shut up moment for Tesla's robotaxi business. With regards to timelines for unsupervised self-driving, Elon advised that they expect to have no safety drivers in parts of Austin by the end of the year, and they also expect to be testing in 8 to 10 metro areas by the end of the year. This pretty much aligns with the estimates I made in June after taking some robotaxi rides in Austin. I stated that in the next 3 to 6 months they had a lot of work to do, and that after the next software iteration, they could start removing safety drivers towards the end of the year, at which point Tesla's ability to scale the fleet would increase dramatically. I also said that it might be 2 major iterations before customers could realistically put their own vehicle on the Tesla network or use unsupervised self-driving on their vehicles. If major improvements come every 6 months, that would mean the middle of next year before self-driving is fully delivered as a product that most customers can use. Pending regulation, of course. Why am I expecting it to take so long despite the rave reviews version 14 is currently getting? Because it's going to take time for Tesla to gather safety data and build confidence. With all that in mind, I'm sure some people are wondering what my prediction is for the growth of Tesla's robotaxi fleet and therefore revenues. I'll take a wild guess, and I'll be interested to see how it plays out over the next couple of years. The robotaxi fleet started in Austin with around 15 vehicles in June, and now, 5 months later, there are around 150. If the fleet continues to grow by an order of magnitude every 6 months or so, that would mean 1,500 vehicles by spring of next year, 15,000 by autumn of next year, and then 150,000 to 1.5 million in 2027. It's going to take in the ballpark of tens of thousands of vehicles on the road generating revenue to really start impacting Tesla's bottom line. And of course, the revenue reporting will be 3 months behind the ramp. So, in my view, if this timeline holds true, peak excitement and bullishness for robotaxi revenues will be in full force by early 2027. As usual, that's not financial advice and do your own research. And yes, I am taking into account potential regulatory hurdles. But to work through the regulatory details would require another video. To be clear, I'm not saying that regulatory hurdles won't slow down Tesla's robotaxi rollout, but that after looking into it, the balance of probabilities is that Tesla can work through those hurdles without too much friction. On that note, let's move on to Elon's comments about vehicle production as a whole. Elon stated that Tesla's current vehicle production capacity isn't quite 3 million, but it will be at some point, and they could probably hit an annualized production rate of 3 million within 24 months. He also said that the Cybercab production line will offer the biggest expansion, and it will start production in Q2 of next year. On screen is the current installed production capacity from Tesla's Q3 slide deck. The total production capacity is 2.35 million vehicles per year. However, my understanding is that at least 2 of those lines aren't fully utilized. The Model Y and Cybertruck lines in Texas. So if all the lines were fully utilized, it would bring production capacity to at least 2.7 million vehicles per year, which is why Elon said production capacity wasn't currently quite 3 million vehicles. Then, next year, the Cybercab line will add at least 1 million units of capacity, and the new Tesla Semi line will add around 50,000 units of capacity, which should push Tesla's total production capacity to 3.775 million vehicles per year by the end of next year. That is, even if Tesla doesn't break ground on any new buildings or factories, they have plenty of room to grow their vehicle production in the next few years. And Elon's guess of a 3 million unit run rate within 24 months isn't a stretch. It all depends if, as I suggested earlier, Tesla can get over 1 million robotaxis on the road by the end of 2027 to support that run rate. Next, moving on to Optimus, Elon said they look forward to unveiling Optimus 3 in Q1, and that it won't even seem like a robot, but rather like a person in a robot suit. I expect that it will look something like the new Figure 03, where the hard plastic is replaced with fabric and there are fewer gaps and exposed mechanisms. This is important because humanoid robots will be working in close contact with humans. If the human collides with the robot in some way, the impact needs to be gentle. And of course, it's best to eliminate as many pinch points as possible. Elon went on to say that Optimus 3 will be much more manufacturable than Optimus 2, and that they're going to be building a 1 million unit production line, with production start towards the end of next year. My assumption is that those production lines are the same ones referred to in the Q3 slide deck, which are currently being installed in anticipation of volume production. However, with that said, it's best to temper expectations. Anytime a company is developing a new product, like the 4680 production lines or Tesla's self-driving program, delays of years are par for the course. If Tesla can produce 1 million robots per year by 2030, it would be a great achievement. As a side note, the progress Tesla has made so far on Optimus is astounding. It was just 4 years ago that Elon announced the Optimus project, and at the time it seemed like a far-fetched idea. Now it's looking like the first production line will be stood up in 2026 for a product that will likely end up in people's homes. Yes, other companies are making flashy presentations, but prototypes are easy and production is hard. Next, let's move on to Elon's comments about real-world AI. In my view, these were the most important comments and hints dropped in the earnings call, and they received the least coverage on social media. Elon said that he knows the roadmap for real-world AI at a granular level, which is being led by Ashok. That is, Elon and the team at Tesla feel like they know exactly what needs to happen in order to build machines that understand the physical world and can navigate and manipulate it. This is the critical breakthrough required that unlocks all of Tesla's ambitious plans in the next decade. Vehicles and humanoid robots are really just avatars for real-world intelligence, which is the robotic equivalent of a divine spark that will make them feel like living creatures. Another underappreciated set of comments from the earnings call were those around intelligence density in a conversation between Elon and Ashok. They started off by saying that they'll be adding reasoning to version 14.3 or 14.4 by the end of the year. The purpose of that is to allow the vehicle to do things like think about which parking spot to choose. The reasoning combined with 360-degree vision will make FSD far better at finding and selecting parking spots than a human, and, in my view, may also eventually allow FSD to perform more complex tasks, like the ability to tell the vehicle to back into your garage. What's that have to do with intelligence density? Ashok went on to say that putting the reasoning abilities on the computer that runs on the car is a challenge, but it's necessary so that the car can make real-time decisions. In other words, the ability to reason can't be outsourced to a powerful server that doesn't reside in the vehicle because it would create too much latency, so it must run on much less compute on the vehicle. To put the intelligence density of Tesla's AI in perspective, at another point in the call, Elon said that the Grok 5 multimodal model that xAI is developing couldn't possibly fit in a car because it's about 10 to 20 times the size of the AI model used in Tesla's vehicles. Despite that, the performance of the AI in Tesla's vehicles is arguably just as impressive as any AI chatbot. That's why Elon is confident in saying that the Tesla AI running on Tesla vehicles has the highest intelligence density. And when looking at intelligence per gigabyte, Tesla may be an order of magnitude better than anyone else. So if Tesla is confident they can solve self-driving with the current hardware, what happens when Tesla's vehicles get the AI5 chip, which I'll cover in a moment, that has 10 times more capability? In my view, we're looking at not just the hardware convergence that Elon's discussed in the past, using the same computer chips for all of Tesla's AI products, but also software convergence. What do I mean by software convergence? If multimodal models like Grok 5 that perform reasoning tasks are 10 times larger than what's running on Tesla's vehicles, and Tesla's vehicles are about to get 10 times more compute, they won't just be capable of running the self-driving software to navigate the real world, but also increasingly performing more powerful reasoning tasks. And of course, the inverse will also likely start to occur, which is that reasoning models like Grok will likely start ingesting data from Tesla's vehicle fleet to understand the real world. That is, the intelligence of the products across Elon's AI empire will start cross-pollinating and informing each other. There will still be specialization between Grok, Optimus, and Cybercab, but they'll share knowledge and skills, and will be fully conversant with humans like the droids in Star Wars. This could be why Elon said he's wondering how much intelligence they should have in a car, and the cars might actually get bored. Either way, as he said in the past, the extra compute horsepower may open the door to a compute service similar to Amazon Web Services, but distributed in Tesla's vehicle fleet. On that note, let's move on to updates on Tesla's AI5 chip. Elon provided an extensive 6-minute monologue on AI5 that included insights into its significance, the effort being put into it, and the technical reasons why it's impressive. Covering what he said could be a video in itself, but let's do a quick run-through. First, both Samsung and TSMC will be manufacturing the AI5 chip. Previously, the indication was that only TSMC would manufacture the chip, so Tesla is doubling down on production. Second, Elon has spent every weekend for the last few months working on AI5 with the chip design team. It's clearly one of his top priorities, and I'll explain why I think that is in a moment. Third, by some metrics, AI5 will be 40 times better than AI4, because they've designed the new hardware to address the pain points in the software. Fourth, on that note, Tesla is the only company doing full-stack real-world AI. Because of that, they not only know what the chip needs to do, but also what it doesn't need to do. That's allowed them to remove the GPU and image signal processor for AI5. What does that mean? Most of the AI chips on the market today evolved from GPUs that were made for gaming. As a result, some of the chip architecture is still devoted to tasks like processing raw image or video data so that it's viewable by humans. Tesla's AI software doesn't need that functionality because it just uses raw photon counts from the camera system. That allows them to strip the image processing-related architecture out of the chip, and also replace the graphics processing units with neural processing units that are more well-suited for AI workloads. Fifth, as a result of those changes, Tesla can fit their entire chip in half a reticle, with room to spare. What does that mean? When Elon is referring to the reticle, he's referring to the area covered by the intense beam of light that's used to etch the silicon for computer chips. An NVIDIA GPU, for example, uses the entire beam, or full reticle. and Tesla's AI5 chip only uses half the beam, meaning it takes up half the space on the silicon wafer, which lowers production costs. Sixth, both the Samsung and TSMC production of the chip will occur in the United States. That provides Tesla with a strategic advantage if geopolitical tensions heat up again. Seventh, Tesla's goal is to have an oversupply of AI5 chips so that their vehicles and robots don't run the risk of a chip supply bottleneck. And if they end up with too many chips, they can use those chips for training compute in their data centers. That is, Tesla's hardware convergence strategy, the ability to use the same chip in a number of products, is already paying dividends. They can tell both TSMC and Samsung to produce as many chips as possible, and then allocate those chips to where they're most needed. Meanwhile, Tesla will continue to order as many chips as possible from NVIDIA, giving them further access to compute, which is the most important competitive advantage in the AI race. Eighth, Elon explained that the only customer for the AI5 chip is Tesla, which simplified the requirements and also contributed to Tesla's ability to simplify that chip and delete components. Their goal with AI5 is radical simplicity, and the end result is they expect the best performance per watt by 2 to 3 times and the best performance per dollar by a factor of 10. Those multiples are, presumably, compared to the AI chips they could purchase from NVIDIA. So far, I don't think most Tesla investors fully appreciate the significance of that. Once again, compute is the primary competitive advantage in the AI race. If Tesla has hardware that's 2 to 3 times more efficient and 10 times cheaper than they could purchase from the dominant compute supplier, NVIDIA, wherever they decide to compete in the AI race, they could run away with the bag. By comparison, the second-place compute supplier, AMD, produces chips that provide so much less value than NVIDIA chips that even if AMD gave their chips away for free, it would still be a better deal to use NVIDIA chips to build an AI data center. Lastly, as a side note, besides the cost and scaling advantages, my view is that the reason Elon wants AI5 to be so good is related to what I covered earlier regarding Tesla solving real-world AI. Solving that problem requires having the most efficient AI model combined with the most powerful compute to create the highest intelligence density possible. AI5 is going to be the powerhouse Tesla needs to create a vehicle that's so intelligent that very few teleoperators are needed to extract the vehicle from difficult situations. The vehicle will be able to think its way out of the situation or talk to the customer to find a solution. And in the case of Optimus, it's going to need high intelligence density to master a wide array of tasks and interact intelligently with the humans it provides services for. The final topic to cover is progress on the self-driving software for Tesla owners. Elon said that they're going to increase the parameter count for FSD V14 by an order of magnitude. It's unclear whether he means over and above the order of magnitude that was originally expected for version 14, or that they have yet to increase the parameter count by that order of magnitude. Parameter count just means how complex the model is. The more complex the model, the closer it matches the complexity of reality, and therefore the better it can navigate reality. Either way, Elon emphasized that even before they deploy the AI5 chip, with AI4, he's 100% confident they can solve unsupervised full self-driving to the point where it can drive better than a human. Vaibhav also made some comments on FSD, stating that Tesla hasn't completely given up yet on making full self-driving work for customers with vehicles that use the older and less powerful Hardware 3 chips. After they've solved autonomy for vehicles with AI4, they'll come back and find a way to take care of the Hardware 3 customers. By my guess, that means the Hardware 3 vehicle owners aren't going to get advice on what's happening with their vehicles until late next year at the earliest. Vaibhav noted that his daily driver is a Hardware 3 vehicle, meaning it's also important to him, and he provided reassurance that Hardware 3 owners are important because they were the early adopters, so Tesla will look after them. Lastly, Ashok stated that once V14 is complete, they'll release a V14 Lite version to Hardware 3 owners in Q2 of next year, which should give them something to look forward to while they wait for potential upgrades. Personally, I'm excited about that because I'm on Hardware 3 as well. Currently, the self-driving software is performing well for me, but I'm looking forward to expanded functionality for some frustrating edge cases. In summary, Tesla's making good progress on establishing dominance across the full AI stack needed for real-world intelligence. That is, from the software to the chips, to energy generation and storage, to the end product itself in the form of vehicles and humanoid avatars. But there's still an information gap with regards to the production of the batteries that will be used to power those products. While it's true that batteries won't be a gating factor for those products because there are so many battery options on the market, if Tesla can produce battery cells in-house at a lower cost, it will certainly provide a competitive advantage and supply chain security. Hopefully we'll get some updates at the annual meeting, but if not, I'll still be doing a video in the next few weeks to provide updates on the 4680 and Tesla's other cells. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel by using the links in the description. Also, consider following me on X. I often use X as a testbed for sharing ideas, and X subscribers like my Patreon supporters generally get access to my videos a week early. On that note, a special thanks to my YouTube members, X subscribers, and all the other patrons listed in the credits. I appreciate all of your support, and thanks for tuning in.